has been a long time since we talked.
Yeah,
We talked for many times in 2000, I guess 19 and 20. No, I don't know. I guess we haven't talked this year. 18 and 19 maybe. Was that
I
it?
think. Yeah, it seems like it was a little over a year ago, or maybe even almost 2 years ago now. It's hard to
Yeah.
say for sure.
So let me see the last time let me look at my notes on you. The last time that I show talking to you was April of 2019.
Okay, April. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been.
So it's been a
Wow.
year and a half. And
Yeah.
so you're saying that you've continued to work at it, but I mean, what have you been doing? You said that you feel like you've got it licked now. Is that true?
Yeah, it's been about it. It started to pretty much. It started to disappear about a year ago, and for the past few months, it's like it's absolutely 100% completely gone. I cannot even remember the last time. Like it's been months since I even had a single speech block. It's like it's absolutely gone now, and yeah, I definitely got to
And
tell.
what do you attribute this much delayed success?
Yeah, I've definitely got to tell you about that for sure. It is kind of a bit of a long answer, so just hear me out. So basically,
Okay, no bad incidents in how long about now since you've appeared speech disabled? A week, a month, a what? What would you say?
4 months, I'd say.
4 months. No bad incidents for
Not a
four
single
months.
one.
Okay, that's that's the passing the first watershed period. They consider 90 days to be the highest risk, and then they say 1 year, and then they
Oh,
say if you get to 2 years, you're okay. That should that's the ultimate. I've got people now that are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years now.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like yeah, like that totally makes sense, and I know why I was relapsing in the past, and now that I've identified what the reason was, like what was holding me back, I know for a fact that the
Okay.
problem is never going to come back again because I fully understand it, if you know what I mean. So, okay, so
Well, I know how I do it. I don't know how you do it. I know how I do it. I
yeah,
I
so
always used crutches when I was in trouble. I shut my mouth. I wouldn't wrestle in public with a
yeah,
word. I just stopped talking and used a crutch. I either used a different word or I used a crutch. I mean, I talked my way around it. Told a story about the word. I dropped the first letter. I used a synonym. I skipped it. I spelled it. I put a word in front of it. I connected them. I jammed a word linked. I did everything. But I
exactly.
would not stutter or block. I wouldn't do it. I
Yes,
wouldn't
it's
do
like
it.
there's so many ways to like get around these issues, and now that I'm on the other side, it's just so it's so obvious to me. It's like there's absolutely no reason to ever have a
You're
speech
right.
block.
You're right.
Silly, but I knew but before I wasn't able to admit this to myself. It's like I wasn't able to. It's like I had a hidden reason to continue stuttering, and I didn't really want to stop stuttering, if you know what I mean. And the thing is, I did know this subconsciously, and that's the reason for why I yeah.
I
So
mean, you were getting there at the end of our work. I mean, I on April 14th in 2019, you said you hadn't had a bad incident in a week, and you were using short bursts in pronunciation. And I
mhm,
urged you to add linkage to pronunciation. You said
yeah,
then that you couldn't remember the last bad incident at work or with family or and with me, and it was a great session. And but then you wrote me after 7 months of Skyping in over 2 years. You said it was taking too much time, and you plan to use the crutches, but nothing else,
yeah,
which would be ill advised. Whether it works or not is I can't say, but the other methods we have do more than
mhm,
solve speech issues, but they also put nails in Satan's coffin pretty deep. So, any event, so you were going to say, so what have you been doing since you decided that it was taking too much time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the reason for why I said that is actually like it relates to the final piece of the puzzle that I figured out. So essentially, okay, so here's what the problem was. Here's why I didn't really want to stop stuttering. It's because I've lived for most of my life. I lived a life of being really, really like socially awkward and like avoiding conversations with other people. I was a very, from a very young age, I was a very sort of academically minded person. I was very introverted. I was a real daydreamer, and because of this, I never really interacted with other people. I was essentially lacking in
Well, it's understandable, of course, and typical.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I, I mean, and yeah, and anyways, yeah. So essentially, I had almost no social skills whatsoever, and I had almost no. You know what I mean by street smarts, right?
Yeah.
Like all I knew was academics. That was all I knew. So then whenever I tried to like go into social situations, essentially, it's like I just I didn't really know what to say, and I knew that everybody else did, but I just didn't know. It's like I just wasn't confident in my own abilities, essentially, and I was afraid of. But yeah, and here's the thing. But I didn't want to admit this to myself because I'm such an extreme perfectionist. That's probably something that you see in a lot of people who stutter.
That is typical. I would say it's common thread with most stutterers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was such an extreme perfectionist that I did not want to admit to my own lack of social skills and street smarts. That I did not want to, and I was afraid that other people would discover these issues as well because I was afraid that my social skills and street smarts were so bad that if people discovered how bad they really were, that they they would just laugh at me or they would reject me essentially. So then whenever so stuttering was essentially a way of like hiding this problem because yeah,
It's a social shield. It kept you private and it kept you from
exactly,
exposing yourself.
exactly because
This is
whenever
common to most stutterers. And
yeah,
frankly, it's common to most people who don't stutter, but they just manifest the problem in other ways. All of us are basically very, very similar.
yeah,
And all of your emotions, most other people have had. They just manifest them in different ways. You and I brought it out in our speech problems, but there are a lot of other ways to bring it out.
yeah, absolutely. Like I know alcoholism is probably a big
Sure,
part.
of course.
Yeah, like
Some people drink because they're more fluent when they drink, but of course that's not an answer.
yeah, 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 and anyways, and now this takes us back to the crutches here and why I think they were so or yeah, or first I'm gonna explain why I kind of quit and dropped out. So essentially, what
After
it,
you made a lot of progress, my man,
yeah,
you made
yeah,
a great deal of progress. You just didn't finish.
exactly,
You were getting close.
exactly. And what it was I just I knew, although I didn't want to admit it to myself, I knew unconsciously what the real problem was.
Yeah.
So I decided to dedicate all my time to solving this problem. essentially. So I faced my fears head on. I was in university, so I started like chatting with all of my classmates. I made a whole bunch of new friends, and in the process of that, I found my social skills were improving, and I was learning more about the world, essentially. So, and as this was happening, it, I could tell that like the root of the problem itself was disappearing. Essentially, it was like, and and once I got to a point where I felt like fully confident in myself, then the crutches they just became so easy to use, and any little word that I felt that I was about to have a problem with, I was able to like stop it right away, and then yeah, and then that that's
Well,
it.
could you tell us which crutches you used mainly?
Writing was the absolute best one I found, and another one was skipping the first letter. Those two were like absolutely critical for me.
Yeah.
I and the reason why is that they forced me to face reality. Essentially, that's because because if because I had because if I had yeah because people don't stutter when they write, right? So when I went to go and write something down, it allowed me to realize what the problem really was. It allowed me to realize that what I was writing down kind of sounded goofy, and a lot of the time I didn't really know what to write down. And then so then and then as soon as I discovered that, I was like, oh, now that's why like like it forced me to face the real problem. Like it's hard to explain, but it's like it allowed me to realize if I can't write it, of course I can't say it, right? Like so yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, so I'll tell you a little story. This so actually shortly after we sort of stopped our sessions, or not shortly after, but it was the September after, I started interviewing uh for jobs. So I'm an accounting student, and I was interviewing for accounting internships. And as soon as I got to yeah, so but before the interviews and stuff, I attended this like networking event for accounting students at my university, and I was kind of thinking this is probably going to be a problem. So of course I brought my pen and my notepad with me, and as soon as I walked right up to the first recruiter, I was completely unable to even say a single word. It was like I could not even say hi. I could not even say my. So what did I do? I pulled out my pen and my paper, and I wrote my name is Alex on it. Of course, as soon as I started writing, I was able to say the whole sentence perfectly fluently as I was writing it.
I love it.
And then I was like, okay, now I think I'm good. Now I think I can probably say the rest of it fine. So I put the pen and notepad down, looked the recruiter in the eyes, and tried to say, I'm a third year accounting student. Again, I knew even if I stood there for a half an hour, I would not be able to say one single word. So I began writing again, and that's what I did for the entire recruiting event. I I wrote every single thing that I was saying, and now it's weird. What was it about that situation that was so difficult? Well, it's because Or I believe, anyways, it's because it was a new experience for me. I had never really been in that sort of a situation, so I wasn't really comfortable with it. I felt unsure of myself. I was very, very hesitant. But of course, I didn't want to admit this to myself, though. So that's why I would stutter. It was a scapegoat. The stutter was a crutch to facing avoid admitting to my own like lack of confidence in that
Hmm.
situation. Like, I'm sure you've noticed, like, there's patterns to this condition, right? It's like in that article that I wrote, I said, like, it was obvious there were patterns to it. The following factors appeared to trigger my stutter: attempting to gain somebody's approval, talking to people I felt were above me, speaking in unfamiliar situations, saying things I felt may come across the wrong way, starting conversations with others. When others start conversations with me, I seem to be perfectly fine. When explaining complex ideas, and when saying the most important words in a sentence. So it wasn't the filler words usually, the, but it was the important words. And now, like, I'll give I'll give you an example of this. So let's say a person who stutters is about to walk up. Let's say a person who stutters wants to flirt with someone who they find to be attractive. So they want to say, like, I think you look really cute, for example. Which word in that sentence do you think would cause the problem?
Well, it depends on the person. It
Yeah.
depends on the person and their condition. There's so many different patterns for stuttering and so many different, covert and situational that I have no idea. It depends on the individual. So many people have they're mainly first feared word issues. Others don't have problems with first feared words. Some only with middle words in them, and other people have problems with both. And then of course blockers, they're basically, if they're shut, some of them are shut down all the way. They're shut down on everything. So
Yeah.
I would have no, I depend on the individual.
I think you're right, and I think that's really key. Like, I don't think necessarily the reason for stuttering is the same for every single person. I mean, it seems like most people, like those situations I mentioned, that seems to trigger it in most people, but I think that probably different people have different reasons, but I think it all comes down to
Yes,
like,
I think that's true, but basically you've discovered, and you're correct, that perfectionism is the number one cause of the problem, and
mhm,
the fear or the concern with other people's opinions is the
exact,
second primary cause.
exactly,
And I
exactly.
think everybody suffers that at those two things. They may have other issues. The If you have a problem with your speech, if it's bad enough and you keep humiliating yourself, you end up being increasingly reclusive, and
Mhm,
you can end up being a hermit, for that matter. And so after a while, being withdrawn and silent is a defense from embarrassing yourself,
mhm,
and
mhm.
people tend to enjoy it more and more and so forth, and it's a snowball, and it's terrible. But
It becomes a cycle, yeah, for sure.
but
Exactly.
you've obviously come a long way, but you really had um, done a good. You were doing so well when we were
Yeah,
working together. But in any event, the important thing is where you are now, and I think that you're demonstrating that. I mean, you haven't had a bad incident where you feel as though you appeared speech disabled to a stranger in
yeah.
4 months, and that is fabulous.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think you should post a success story on,
it's
with us. Don't you think so?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Do you want
I,
to write it? Or do you want me to write it? I think you should write it.
yeah, yeah. I can definitely write it like that article that I wrote. I know it is a bit long. It's like 10. It's 10 pages long.
Well,
See, it'll,
yeah. We don't. That'd be
yeah,
a bit much. Maybe 3 pages is probably about. You know,
yeah.
if you
There's a
can
lot.
boil it down.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I could absolutely write something like that, and
That
like
would be great. And something. It doesn't cost you a dime at the moment to come to Speech Anxiety Cures at the SAM Speech Club, which we meet on Saturdays, and it's
oh,
all people who've stopped stuttering or people who are working on it, and
yeah,
so basically everybody there has the same background, and there are a lot of very wise people there, your age, older, and even younger. And it's you should be coming to that club on a regular basis and making your comments and sharing your thoughts and asking questions, and eventually. Sometime right now I've got speakers all the way through February, but like I'd love to have you give us a talk at SAM, 5 to 15 minutes or 5 to 20 minutes, your choice, and you hear other people do it, and everybody loves these things. They love to know, they love to hear what you did.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I would absolutely. I'm gonna write that down to make a note to
Yeah,
myself.
I mean it's in sometime in March, and I'm gonna if you'll send me your success story, I'll tweak it, a little, and we'll slap it on SAA with a mug shot, that mug shot you sent me, unless you got a better one you want, and that you're Alex from Canada. That's all you're disclosing, and
Okay,
and that's it. But I think this would be fabulous, just
fantastic,
fabulous. But
fantastic.
you should come to Sam every Saturday you can. And if you can't make it, you should watch the sessions. But you need to be there because you need to talk.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just wait 1 sec. I'm just gonna write something down. Um,
This is so exciting. I'm so glad you got back in touch with me.
yeah,
Because I get invested in you and in everybody that I try to help.
yeah,
They're all kind of like family or something. And it's
yeah,
very upsetting when we don't beat it. I get, it really worries me.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. Like uh, I'm sorry for that, but yeah, like what happened was I knew unconsciously what the real problem was, and that's why, I said that I felt it was too time consuming, if you know what I mean, because I wanted to just spend all my time on just like learning social skills. Like I spent a whole bunch of time like watching movies as well, just to like pick up like just to essentially learn from movies and watching news, just to like learn more about the world, become more worldly, and I wanted to dedicate as much time to that as possible, just because I felt like that, like I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time, but I knew unconsciously that that was the real problem. So that's yeah. So that's
Well, it's hard to realize. It's hard. You've figured it out, and it's hard to realize these things and accept them. But you have to do it. That's why coaches don't cure anybody. Everybody has to cure themselves. Coaches can just say, "Try this, try that, try this worked for me. This worked," and so forth. That's all we can do. And so
exactly.
you have taken it to the next level, which is much to your credit. It's just wonderful. I'm thrilled to death.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that, and yeah, it definitely like I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without your help, though. Like all of your suggestions were just so fantastic, and they really just allowed me to really realize what the real problem is. Like especially that auto suggestion of like, if I can say one word anywhere, anytime, I can say any word anywhere, anytime. Like
Exactly.
it just, it forces you to face reality. It forces
That's
you
hard to deny, isn't it? It's hard to
exact,
deny that.
and that's why reading aloud is so good as well. I mean, it just like it it forces you to realize this is not a speech issue. If it's not a speech issue, then that leads to the question, well, what is the real issue, right? And I feel like
Exactly.
your method is so perfectly designed to like guide someone to the realization of what it is. So yeah, so I think your organization, Speech Anxiety Anonymous, SAC, it's got to be the best organization in the world for people who stutter. So I want to do absolutely
Well, I'm
whatever.
so glad to hear you say that because, you know, to me, it is your community, it's my community, it's the community, it's the world's only community of ex stutterers and people who are beating it. It's the only one in the world.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's just it's so dramatically different from everything else out there, but it's so obviously correct as well. I mean,
It's
I don't think
wonderful.
it's hard to deny. So yeah, so I would love to write a success story. I'll write one for sure. I'll start attending as many of those SAM meetings.
Yes, exactly. And I think you can get I'm if you go on SAC's website and go to community and then go to speech club, I think you can click right there and get click and get the link that you need to go to SAM meetings.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't send out invitations anymore, but people get them right there, and there's a password too. And for the
Okay.
moment, it's all free. You know, it's come one, come all, and they're just trying to build it up because they're doing what I can't. They're building something around my methods that can help make them clearer, and they're promoting it, and they can't do it absolutely for free forever, but they're trying. They got it so as low as they can, and I don't own it, and I don't run it, and I never will. But I just when I quit, and I got to quit someday, and when I quit, I don't want these methods to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my third edition is almost 600 pages, and I'm revising it right now and making third edition hyphen 2021. I'm adding about 50 pages to this thing right now. Right
Yeah.
now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. I think that's just great. And yeah, yeah. You were mentioning that like you can't give it away for free anymore, but that's
They
I mean,
won't let me.
well,
Yeah. I had to
but
make some agreements with these
okay.
people for them to do what they do.
But that's I mean that's perfectly fine. I mean I would certainly love to pay for it and the video lessons that you're mentioning. And I mean, although I don't have a lot of money right now, I would eventually like to donate even more money, even like above that, just because
Well, that's
it's
kind.
such a
That's very
fantastic
kind of you. Because
organization.
they work. There's nobody making any money in SAC.
Yeah,
They're all working for love largely and in the red, you know.
yeah.
So they're just trying to keep it alive until it can break even. I don't know when that is. They started it in March,
Hmm.
and they're still deeply in the red. They're a long
Oh,
way from out of the woods, but they
yeah.
got enough to go quite a while, So
Yeah.
they're going to hang in there and keep trying. They're going to keep
Okay.
trying.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And yeah, and I would definitely love to join them for sure. And one thing I would really love to do is coach people.
Oh,
Well,
love to hear that. I love to hear that. I love to hear that because we have a program for training coaches. At present, I'm the one who trains them and I test them. But
okay.
they've got about 8 now, and they're quite good. They're really quite exceptionally good. And they get their own success stories, you know. I used to get like, I'm happy to get one a month. One month we got 11. 11. And
11.
they got 6 and I
Holy,
got 5.
that's
This last month, November, we got 4, you know. And but it, you know, they come in waves, and we always get some, you know, we always get some, and
yeah,
we just keep adding them, and it's just, you know, happy people, and that's what it's all about. And look, we have 3 goals, Alex, as you will remember. The first goal is to stop stuttering for at least to show yourself, go for a month, and you've done that 4 times over, with as demonstrating what, that you know how to avoid appearing speech disabled. That's all it proves. It doesn't prove that you've overcome fear or anything else. It doesn't prove that. Then the second thing is to teach yourself to love to speak in all venues.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
in that process, you're going to become a much better speaker than your peers. So not only are you not going to be a problem with your speech, you're going to be a leader in the speech. And you're not going to care what the venue is or how many people are there, whether there's a mic or a camera, phone, you don't care. It's irrelevant, totally irrelevant. And then the third thing is to adopt a mind training regimen for life, because this is where we attack boredom and depression and anger and anxiety and hatred and jealousy and greed and
yeah,
laziness and insomnia and everything else that bothers us. You know, then we can say, hey, stuttering was a blessing in my life because it enabled me to realize that I had to change my persona, my karma, my being, my thinking, so that I could make the best contribution I can make to this planet. And that's what I did by taking control of my brain. And stuttering is what forced me to do it. So
yeah,
stuttering turns out being the genesis of the better person that you can become.
yeah, yeah. You know, that's such a good point that you made right there. That like this is not just about stuttering. Like these exact same, like these exact, like like the factors that lead to stuttering and the solution for stuttering is also completely relevant to, you know, drinking problems, you know,
Of
sleep
course,
problems, other anxiety.
absolutely.
And I just feel like the way that our society is treating these problems is just so ridiculous. It's
You're
like, you
right.
know, like this, like for like take depression for example. The solution that most like mainstream medical practitioners believe in is to essentially give you a substance that poisons your brain in a certain way that prevents you from feeling emotions. That's what really, but like there's no way to like only attack the negative emotions. It also attacks the positive
Yeah,
emotions.
sure, of course.
Almost just like emotionally flat
Boy,
all the
you're
time.
making some wonderful points here. I got to tell you that's that's
thank,
wonderful stuff.
thank,
Absolutely. You're
thank you.
spot on. And so many, and I, of course, I'm not a pill person. I don't, for moods and things like that, I don't think that that's the solution for that
Yeah.
either. So, but in any event, those are our three goals, and
Yeah.
you're well on your way to the second goal, loving to speak. But being in the speech club, and of course, things like Toastmasters, we are feeder to Toastmasters. That's a little different environment because they have a mic and a podium and a light on you or something, so it's a little more tension, pressure. But our Sam Club trains people for that, and some of the people are in both, and that's great. And we think that's wonderful. So the more speaking, the better. I
Yeah.
would urge to you Crutch 11. Are you familiar with Crutch 11?
Uh, you know, I think I remember. Is that no crutch at all?
Well, no, that's 13. So 11 is a little bit different. I used to call it when all else fails, but we renamed it, or we gave it a second name, speaking like a king. And
Oh, right.
that's really what you should be working on is Crutch 11 and Crutch 13. Those are the two you should, and Crutch 12. But you do Crutch 12 already. You smile a lot when you speak, so you'll need to worry about that one. Crutch 11 and Crutch 13 are the ones you should be working on consistently. If you would adopt Crutch 11 as a style of speaking, you would elevate your speech fast. I mean, it's great, but I mean, you can make it a lot better.
I guess, yeah, I guess maybe I tend to talk a little bit on the fast side
You and your
nowadays.
whole generation, I mean, it's a disease. But Crutch 11 says, well, the reason it was called when all else fails. Actually, we should make that part of a separate conversation, really, Crutch 11, because it would run over. And I've got some other calls. You wanna, why don't you work on your success story? Why don't we talk again in a week? And let's work on Crutch 11 when we talk next time. What do you say?
Yeah, yeah, I think that sounds fantastic for me.
Okay, okay, because it'll help you plenty. I'm sure it will. Well, listen, it's great talking to you. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. I'll look to receive a draft of your success story this week, and I'll look to see you on Sam.
Yeah,
Hope to see you there.
absolutely,
Sundays
absolutely.
Saturdays at 9 a.m. New York time.
Okay, okay, 9 a.m. New York time. So that would be, I guess that would be, well, I'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I think I should.
I don't know. I know you're in Winnipeg, but I don't know what the time zone is. Is that like Ontario?
Central
Oh, it's
time.
central, so it's a little earlier for you. Well, I think we're going to change the time pretty soon to a little bit later, maybe 1 hour later, to help you guys out that are in the early zone.
Yeah, that would be great for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we will. We will. Well, hopefully by next month we'll get it changed. Anyway, I'll look to see you there and email me again the day before we're going to talk and remind me because I get so booked up, I get problems.
Okay, for sure. So same day, same time next week.
Yeah, let me just see what I hold on here. Uh, Boom, boom, boom. So you called me at. Um, do you want to say noon? Noon on you or how about noon on Friday? Well, noon my time is 11 New York time.
Okay, okay. Wait, my phone's just about to die. I'm just gonna plug it in here.
Let me see what I'm
Oh,
gonna bring up
forget.
Winnipeg and see how many hours it is apart from me. Hold on. Oh, Winnipeg, Winnipeg. Okay, I can't spell it. That's part of the problem. Boy, it's slow bringing this up. Jesus, it's now. Oh, come on. This is terrible. I don't want to be in Winnipeg. I want to be. It's 12:19 your time. Oh, it's only 2 hour, only 1 hour earlier than New York.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so that's not a problem. Yeah, so if we say noon, it'll be 10 your time.
Okay, 10 my.
Yeah.
Would we be able to do 11
You mean 11 my time or your time?
or my time? Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll do that. Hold on. Okay, I got you. Which is one my time. So it's one my time and it's 11 your time.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, that sounds.
All right. Well, listen. Great to see you. Congratulations again. I'll look for your success story. Keep up the great work, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you then. All right. G- Good to see you again, Lee, and thanks again for all of your coaching. Like it really absolutely changed my life. So just
Thank
I
you,
just
mate.
got to thank you
Thank you,
again.
mate. I'll see you
And
next week. Take care,
yeah,
bud.
see you then.